United States may have been terrible at winning over the hearts and minds of the Afghani people, but Leonardo DiCaprio was great at it. At the very least, after the release of the Titanic, he found that boys throughout Afghanistan, which had been ruled over by the Taliban, started featuring Leonardo DiCaprio haircuts. Even though the Taliban started backlash against this sort of movement, they kept doing it. According to these boys, the idea that they could be inspired by an American like Leonardo DiCaprio was something that helped them find joy in times that were particularly tumultuous throughout their country. And it's that exact idea of the relationship that we have with the people around us, how they drive us, how they push us forward, that's so embodied in today's quotation. Sometimes the words of a fake wizard are all you need to find your way home, by Karen Bowers. What Miss Bowers is letting us know is that we have to let people into our lives to drive us forward, because it's through their strength that we become stronger. To further analyze her lovely words, well, first, look at how we don't often allow these individuals into our own lives because we're worried they won't accept our fragility. Before second, realizing that this leads us to go down the wrong path when we're trying to push forward. And finally, learning to involve those wizards that are going to continue to drive us forward. Part of the reason Bowers lets us know that the only thing we need is a little wizard and their voice to drive us forward is because the strength of other people is what can drive us and push us. Oftentimes, however, we don't let people into our lives, and it's because we're afraid that they won't accept our fragility. This is exactly what author Nassim Taleb explores in his 2012 book, The Anti-Fragile: Things That Gain from Disorder. He explains, societal conceptions tend to put fragility into two camps. Either people are fragile, or they are resilient and robust. So either they fall down and break apart when there is conflict, or they don't let that conflict affect them. However, what he explains, the concept that's always missed is the anti-fragile, the one that grows because of that disorder, rather than against it. In essence, he explains we oftentimes don't talk to people about our problems. We don't find those wizards and accept those words because we're afraid that when they see us as anti-fragile, all they think we truly are is fragile. And then we expect that they'll judge us for it. However, when we're so scared to let those people into our lives, those wizards that can help drive us forward, we end up going down the path that could have been averted this whole time. This is exactly what the US ambassador to India learned in the 1950s, John Gilbreth. What he discovered when he tried to create a specific relationship between the US and India. He adopted a cat and thought it would be fun to name it Ahmed, not realizing that that was a derivation from the Prophet Muhammad's name, and then the United States Embassy was attacked. After Time magazine reported this particular incident, Gilbreth didn't necessarily pay attention to the people around him, the closest people in his circle, when they were telling him that this was a particularly bad decision to make from a cultural literacy understanding. And that is what led him to fail. He ignored the individuals that were all around him, the wizards, if you will, the magic. And because of that, ended up losing his position as a US ambassador. So the way we need to approach situations isn't to just push people away, regardless of how we think they might react to our specific fragility or our understanding of the situations around us. We need to accept them and learn to grow with them, because they'll help push us forward. That's what makes the Japanese practice of kintsukuroi so influential. The Japanese understand that just because something is broken or has experienced any sort of damage, like pottery, doesn't make it no longer acceptable under social standards, because it just needs the magical help of the people around it to be better. So when pottery in ancient Japan would break, they would glue it back together with gold paste, not trying to hide that damage or breaking, but to make it more beautiful because it had been broken. It's really easy to not accept anyone's help when you really, really need it. But sometimes those wizards, those people in our lives, those community that drives us forward continuously no matter what it is that we're doing, is all around us. We just need to accept its help and continue to grow because of it. So when returning to Karen Bowers' quotation, sometimes the words of a fake wizard are all you need to find your way home. She lets us know that we've got to let the people in our lives help us in order for us to continue to grow and push forward. We understood we don't often do this because we're afraid people will judge our fragility, before second realizing that this leads us down a path that we could have avoided. And finally, learn to accept that help and grow in spite of our breakage, not against it. At the end of the day, this is exactly what Leonardo DiCaprio did, inspiring young boys throughout Afghanistan.